Uh, good, good morning, friends. Today's topic is Krishnamurti and Nagarjuna. They both were very bright star in Indian spiritual sky, and they both were compared with Buddha. Like Aldous Huxley, when he listened to Krishnamurti in Switzerland, Sannen, he said that listening to Krishnamurti was like listening to Buddha, and Nagarjuna was also called a second Buddha. But there is a difference in their lives. Krishnamurti was in last century, 20th century, and Nagarjuna was in second or third century. So I will tell you a little bit about Krishnamurti because we all know a lot about Krishnamurti's teachings. So I don't need to say much, but little bit I will say, and then I will say little bit about Nagarjuna, and I will take about maybe 20 to 25 minutes, and then people can make comments or ask questions, anything you would like to do. So, Krishnamurti's teachings, like Buddha's teachings, is about our suffering, psychological suffering. And Krishnaji says that this psychological suffering, like anger, fear, jealousy, conflict, all they come from thinking. बाद में बाद में नहीं नहीं Okay, sorry, Krishnaji says that our psychological problems come from thinking, and from thinking comes the sense of ego or me, I, and then we say, I like it, I don't like it, and there are problems. A duality starts between thinker and thought. And so, if a person wants to really be free from problems created by thinking, then a person needs to look at the beginning of a thought. And to look at the beginning of a thought, it cannot be done by thinking because then you are in the same plane. So there is a different dimension called awareness, choiceless awareness, or intelligence. When it comes in existence in our mind or being, then thoughts can be seen at their root. And then there is a possibility of avoiding many problems we create in relationship. So the main thing Krishnaji is talking about is choiceless awareness or intelligence, which can dissolve all our problems created by thinking. Now I come to Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna was born in a Brahmin family somewhere in 196 AD after Christ. So almost 1900, 2000 years ago, Nagarjuna was born in Vidarbha, and he was a very bright student. And he studied Ayurveda, astrology, Sanskrit. He was an alchemist, means he knew a lot about chemistry, Tantra. He could become invisible also, according to the story. And one time he and his friends, they became invisible and entered the palace of a king, and they misbehaved with the queens. And then the king came to know, and then the king spread sand on the floor. And when the next day Nagarjuna and his friends came into the palace, the print was made on the sand, and so they were all caught and they were killed. And Nagarjuna was not killed by this, but he saw the death of his friends, and then he decided to give up that kind of tantraism, and he became a scholar. And it's said that he went to Nalanda University, and he was very, very good in logic, and he had debates. And what had happened that at the time of Buddha, when Buddha was giving a talk, he had said that his teachings are like a finger pointing to the moon. That means the moon is the truth, and the finger is like a pointer at teachings. And Buddha said, don't look at my finger, look at the moon. And to look at the truth, one has to look within oneself. But this, after Buddha's death, most of these monks, they were all the time discussing Buddha's teachings, analyzing it, and then they were giving certain logical background to Buddha's teachings, and many groups were formed, and these groups were against each other, and they think that they had a clear understanding of Buddha's teachings. And so after 500, 600 years after Buddha's death, Buddhism was declining because there was no clarity, and maybe there was no freedom, and people were just repeating what Buddha was saying. And so there was a lot of uh, comments made by Hindu and Jain religion. And so there was nobody who could defend Buddhism. So Nagarjuna came, and he revived Buddha's teachings, especially the teachings of Buddha, which were lost. I think they said that those teachings, that particular teaching about emptiness and about the middle way, it had gone to Naga people, and Nagarjuna was taken to this Naga people, and he got this lost teaching of Buddha, and then he meditated on those teachings of middle way, Mula, Madhyam Karika, and also emptiness. So Nagarjuna is known for many books he wrote, but main thing is the middle way, Mula, Madhyamaka, Karika, and about the emptiness. So what it is said, when Buddha was talking with his monks, he had one cup in his hand, and there was a water in the cup. And Buddha called Ananda, his disciple, and said, what do you see in this cup? So Ananda said that the cup is filled with water. Then Buddha said, remove all this water. And he turned the cup upside down. And then he asked, what is in the cup? So Ananda said, there is nothing, no water. But Buddha said, there is still something is there, air is there. So Buddha said when we say something is empty, it means empty of something. And even the air can be removed and then there will be vacuum. But even nowadays, we have electromagnetic waves which are everywhere. So even we have a vacuum, there will be electromagnetic waves, but we will not go into that. But what it is said that when we say something is empty, it means it is empty of independent existence. And Buddha pointed out this cup and said, do you see in this cup water? So what Buddha meant that though there was no water in the cup, but in making this clay cup, water was used. And there's a clay is there, water is there. A, a potter made this cup. So this cup came into existence because of many different factors. So everything comes from other things. Like if you look at a leaf of a tree, that leaf exists because the tree exists. That tree exists because somebody planted the tree, and then the tree exists because it is watered and there's a sunshine, and uh, the person who planted the seed. So, so many things are involved in any object. Even our body came into existence because of our parents, and then we need food for survival. So our body exists because there is a food, and there is water, air. So everything is dependent on everything else. If we go deeper into it, it means that everything contains the whole universe. If we expand our logic, that our body, and then this body is continuously changing. And we have also what is called the mind. And the mind is made up of thoughts and feelings. And these thoughts and feelings are also changing. And anything which is changing, it doesn't have independent existence on its own. So our thoughts are changing, and the problems which we come in our life, like unhappiness or anger, that anger is also changing. It's not permanent. So what Nagarjuna explained is that anything which is changing, it doesn't have inherent existence. It can be changed, and all everything is empty. So Nagarjuna's teachings are about emptiness of even our mind. Um, that the mind is a product of our experiences, knowledge, language, everything. It depends on everything else. And when it is said empty, it means empty of independent existence. So if we remove everything from a substance or even our mind, everything is removed. What remains? Nothing remains. And that nothing is the true emptiness. And that emptiness, generally, people are frightened of a state where everything goes away from our mind, and what remains is pure awareness, and that is the freedom. And so, what um, Nagarjuna explained to many scholars in Nalanda University that Buddhism is not nihilism, it is not something frightening, it is not something negative, because Buddha said there is suffering, and then, but Buddha also said that there is a cause for suffering, there is a understanding of suffering, and there is a freedom from suffering. So Nagarjuna brought back the true philosophy of Buddha, which was lost, and he explained in such a way that all these various Buddhist uh, groups, they all came together, and it gave a proper understanding of Buddhism, and that is why Nagarjuna is considered the second Buddha, because he tried to explain Buddhism in a logical way in the assembly of scholars, because Nagarjuna had a very brilliant intellect and logic. He knew logic, and so he did not try to defend Buddhism, but what were the arguments against Buddhism? He tried to show that those arguments by the opponents, they were contradictory, and those scholars also begin to understand, and so Buddhism doesn't need any defense, because it is defenseless. Emptiness, there is nothing there to defend in the emptiness when the mind is very clear, without any thinking. It is a pure awareness, which is a freedom, which is a happiness. And what about the middle way is that uh, things neither exist, nor they don't exist. That is the Nagarjuna's philosophy. When we say uh, things are empty, it doesn't mean that the thing doesn't exist. The thing, a cup, a chair, or anything, our body, it does exist. But at the same time, it doesn't exist in the sense that it doesn't have independent existence. It depends on many other things. So, um, and the other way Nagarjuna explained that one doesn't need to indulge in all the pleasures like the way Buddha lived with pleasures, and one doesn't need to do a lot of austerities, deprive the body of food and water, and not to torture our body. So there is a middle way, and that middle way is the most intelligent way. So let me see if there is anything more. And yes, also Nagarjuna said that all this logic which people are using to support or to argue against any philosophy, that logic is itself incomplete, because it is made of language, and the language is not whole. So a truly spiritual teachings cannot be uh, cannot be explained in words. It cannot be expressed, but it is possible for people to feel the truth of emptiness. That means emptiness which is empty of thoughts and feelings, but awareness which exists. And that awareness, all the problems it can dissolve. So finally, I would say that anything which is not static, anything which is changing, it can, it is not independent. And so, if there is any unhappiness, any problem, fear, it can go. It is not permanent. And for those problems to go, we need a non-verbal understanding or seeing, what Krishna ji calls choiceless awareness. So I think the teachings of Nagarjuna and Krishnamurti, they both are very similar. They go right at the root from where our problems come. But Nagarjuna makes it more wider. And in Nagarjuna, there is a lot of logic and philosophy, because he was a philosopher. He was he was many things. He had multiple personality, but in Krishnamurti sticks to, like Buddha, that you don't need to go into something like reincarnation or Atman, Brahman. What we need is freedom from the suffering which are created by us because of ignorance, ignorance of how it comes into existence. So, by meditating either on Buddhist philosophy or Nagarjuna or Krishnamurti, what we need is not gathering of knowledge of the teachings, but we need a silent curiosity, turning the attention inward and going right at the root from where thoughts are arising. So, very, very few people are interested, and to be alone, to be silent, to turn the attention inward, to have the silence is frightening for most people, because it is like a psychological death. And uh, only people who feel that this silent awareness is really a very beautiful way of living. For such people, nothing is required. No reading, no discussion, no dialogue, uh, no meditation, no awareness, but an ongoing, effortless, motiveless awareness which sees whatever is coming and going without any interference of me trying to change it. So, living with what is moment by moment, and in that living with what is, there is no what should be. So now I come back to Krishnamurti, that in Krishnamurti teachings is just to see what is and moving with it. It doesn't mean that our mind needs to be completely silent. There may be thinking going on, but this awareness can see the thoughts moving, and it's going just like the clouds are going in the sky, thoughts come, then thoughts go away and there's a blue sky. So clouds exist in the background of sky. The sky remains, the clouds come and go. Similarly, thoughts and feelings, they come in the background of awareness, and these thoughts and feelings come and go, but the awareness remains if it is awakened. But when the awareness is not awakened, these thoughts multiply and they create more and more problem. And that is what is happening to humanity, that without this awakening of awareness, thoughts are multiplying, knowledge is multiplying, conflicts are multiplying at every level, whether it's international conflicts like Israel and Iran, or America and Russia, or within the family, because knowledge will not help us. We need, probably knowledge is like a thorn which can remove the thorn of ignorance, and then even the thorn of knowledge can be removed. And that is what Buddha also said, that his teachings were like a boat which can take you from this shore of all the problems and to the other shore where there are no problems, freedom. And these teachings are like a boat. And once you go on the other shore, then you don't carry the boat. You don't need all that knowledge. But I think Buddha's disciples, they were only interested in the boat, and they were analyzing Buddha's teachings. And so they really did not understood. They did not go into their own self to find freedom. Maybe some people here and there could find freedom, but most of them, they just live in the group, and maybe similar thing can also happen to Krishnamurti's teachings, where there are so many groups and each group is discussing so many problems, week after week, year after year. But it is not about uh, trying to understand Krishnamurti, but trying to really see ourselves as we are with silent awareness. So I think I have completed whatever I have to say. Thank you very much. Other people can now make comment. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Harshad
Yeah,
sir,
yeah, come. Yeah,
thanks a lot. So I'm just looking at my notes.
okay.
You said, so basically he was the second Buddha. Okay. But people also say that Krishnamurti was also a Buddha, incarnation
Yeah.
of Buddha. That is what some people say. And some
Mm.
people also say that the teaching that Krishnamurti taught is probably the most radical of teachings ever taught by any Buddha. I mean, Buddha is just a title, there have been many of them. Okay. So when he negates everything, okay,
Mm.
it's not this. There is a emptiness. There is an emptiness sutra.
Mm.
Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Okay.
Mm.
O Sari Putra, emptiness is form is emptiness, this is empty, that is empty, that is empty. But that emptiness is also form. So your form, Harshad Parekh form, is also emptiness, right? Is that what he's saying? Or he's saying
Yeah.
something different?
No, something different. What Nagarjuna said, empty means, and even Buddha said, empty means empty of independent existence, because
Meaning
everything
what?
is depending on everything else, so it is not empty. Everything is not empty. Everything is empty, sorry, empty of independent existence.
So if there is no independent existence, there is emptiness, right?
Yeah, right.
No independent existence. That is what you are saying. Now,
Yeah,
see, the
right.
problem there is existence itself means ex existere. That means out of something. Okay.
Yeah,
So I exist. So I exist as something out of something, right?
yeah.
And then there
Hmm.
is that relationship. The room, I am out of the room, so I exist. If I am part of the room, I don't exist. Then the room exists. I exist for certain number of years, then I become part of the earth. How do you frame that independent existence? I would say that there is nothing independent. I mean, you can't, if it has to exist, it has to
Hmm.
depend on something, right?
Right, right,
So,
right.
whole of existence is
Hmm.
this.
Yeah,
So logically, there can't be anything which is really empty,
yeah.
right?
Uh, yeah, no, Hindu people, they said there is Atman, uh, beyond body and mind. But Nagarjuna and Buddha said there is nothingness, emptiness, and that emptiness, Krishnamurti calls it awareness or intelligence. So that intelligence is really empty. Uh,
I know, but
yeah,
Adi Shankara questioned that. This emptiness cannot be the thing. You know, there's a lot of. I know what you are saying, but Adi Shankara said that you have to posit something positive. You can otherwise you run the risk of becoming a nihilist. You know, so
yeah.
that's what some people claim. They say that Buddha was a nihilist. Anyway, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, I think they say that Shankaracharya was deeply affected by Nagarjuna, because Shankaracharya came in the 8th, 7th or 8th century, and
Yeah.
Nagarjuna was 500 years before that. And so Shankaracharya learned from Nagarjuna, but only he made a change. Instead of this nothingness or emptiness, Shankaracharya used the word Atman to say that there is something independent which exists. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harshad Parekh, sir.
Thank you.
So it was a very nice journey. So I know little about Nagarjuna ji
Mm.
because it's a mysterious power. Similar thing happened with Krishna ji was also his subtle body was taken out and Krishna ji was given. It's called his name was some Jwalakula Maharshi, someone given Diksha and uh, from the Buddha lineage. So some things are very mysterious things which cannot we can think or imagine, like going to Patala and himself becoming uh, like a nothing and getting nothing. Here, coming to the Somendra sir's question, so we are also having the formlessness when we are in deep sleep. First thing. Second thing, if we start thinking, not made stop thinking, but it's natural. So that is the area of which we are not went because we always extend with thoughts and words and images. So no words or thoughts can be told because once we become empty, it's not like emptiness without any space, but it's with fullness. Just we are
Mm.
seeing the space and Akash, whatever we call this 5 elements. So, out of which space looks like empty, but it's not so. Scientifically, also, it's proven. It contains particles, whatever we call. Like, similarly, when I'm thoughtless, also there is a something, as you are expressing. We may call it as nothing, we don't call anything. That is what the Nagarjuna was saying. That most of the times what we do is just we make the thought empty by thinking again. We make the thought empty by thinking again, and then we call that word or just imagined emptiness. So, which comes and goes, or like now I'm empty in the this Zoom meeting, or like that. So that is one thing. According to, if we go with the modern physics or quantum physics, the slit lamp experiment or the quantum experiment. So what we are seeing and feeling and thinking is not the reality. So it's an imagined reality. And if we see the even the mind, which takes the images, within a second it takes the 16 images. So when it becomes subtle, like Harshad ji quoted the story. So he became empty and was not able to be seen, Nagarjuna. So these are very subtle sciences with subtle senses, like in dream. If you see in the dream, everything is happening like a waking state only, but only there is no physical world there. If you take the dream, there is a mental world. Similarly, now if we don't take the physical and mental world, as told by Krishna ji, the death of the psychological world, so hardly we are not able to sustain that, as told by Harshad ji. Within fraction of second, we tell something, imagine something, and we destroy ourselves. Means which is created emptiness is destroyed by ourselves. That is what we are doing. Thank you.
So,
Yes. Yes, Chaitanya.
Dinesh, you want to say something first?
You can go
Is
ahead.
thy need greater than mine? Okay, what I was saying that actually most of the things that we have understood theoretically and logically about Buddhism, mostly because of Nagarjuna, who was born about 600 years after Buddha's demise, and Chandrakirti, who was born another 600 years after Nagarjuna died, and Tsongkhapa. These three scholars, they went into, they went very deeply into the Buddha's teachings and explained that Nagarjuna is considered to be the second Buddha in the Buddhist tradition itself, because he very carefully, very sensitively, very minutely, he described the truths that the Buddha had taught. For instance, the truth of dukkha, anicca, and anatta, which is suffering. Anicca is the Pali word for anitya, which is impermanent, and anicca, which means so anatta, which means having no atma, having no self of its own, no intrinsic self. So Nagarjuna said that nothing has a swabhava of its own, doesn't have its own swabhava. And he also elaborated on what is now known as pratitya samutpad, which means things have dependent origination. So desire is, say, take for example Krishnaji. Thought is because memory is. Memory is because there is a chip maybe in the brain which has stored it. And from there response becomes thought. Desire is because perception is, because contact is, because sensation is, because there is an image formation. So anything, according to Nagarjuna, whose whose origination depends on the existence of something else is actually not real. It's impermanent. And it's a superimposition on something that is real. So if it's unreal, it amounts to saying that it is impermanent. Actually, it's like a synonymous for being impermanent, having no worth of its own. So there would be, say for instance, this applies even, say Krishnaji and Nagarjuna. They are both considered as, masters of negation. Nagarjuna is even negating negation. Say, for instance, if you ask Nagarjuna, does God exist? He would say, no. He says, so he does not exist. So, no. So you ask him, so he either exists or does not exist? He will say, no, this is also not. So the questioner says, so does it mean that he both exists and does not exist? Nagarjuna will say, no, you are again wrong. So then he will say, does it mean that he neither exists nor does not exist? Nagarjuna will come up with the same answer. Say, no, this is also. So he negates negation itself. Now look at Krishnaji. The word is not the thing. Negation of any description, of labeling, of naming. You look at the people tree, the word people is not people. He says to somebody, what do you mean by my wife? So identification is not real. It's again a superimposition on something real. Now their approach is not to go to the real directly, but through negation of what real is not. So Krishnaji will say, you cannot find what love is, you can find what love is not. So begin with rejecting what love is not. Maybe in the end, what you are left with is love if your negation is profound, it's serious, it's honest, and it's authentic. You just don't do it for the sake of negation. You actually do it. So pratitya samutpada, which is the law principle of dependent origination, and nothing having its intrinsic, is actually an elaboration, an explanation of the Buddha's truth of anitya and anatma. Nothing having. But again, when they say nothing, Chandrakirti, who came around 600 years after Nagarjuna passed away, he says, like if you listen to Krishnaji's last talks in Mumbai, 85, I think, few months before he passed, he says that, he talks about something, says that there is silence, and even that silence is not everything. Beyond that, there is an emptiness. And he denies that also. He says, beyond that, there is that which is the source of all creation. So there is a constant negation of even a permanent observer who can watch everything. Like this is where Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta differs from, you see, where they posit a permanent witness consciousness, Sakshi Bhava, permanently there, regardless of whatever happens to the Sukshma Kaya, the Sthul Kaya, gross body, subtle body, mind. Mind is form of body, mind is a sense organ, thoughts, feelings, emotions, all psychological, psychic movements, physical movements, all parts of the unreal. We are still mistaking the snake for the rope, or rope for the snake. So there is a negation of that. You find an echo of that in Adi Shankara. Mano Buddha Hankara Chittanina, which is Mana, Buddhi, Ahankar, Chitta, which are all parts of the Sukshma body, the subtle body in Vedanta, in Buddhism. I am none of these. Nacha Grana Netre, Nacha Shrota Jive. I am not any of the sense organ, the organ of sight, smell, tactile, touch, seeing. So that kind of denial is found. That's why, Shankaracharya was, by some orthodox Brahmins, he was not liked by them. He said he is a pseudo-Buddha. He's a Chadma Buddha. He's a pseudo-Buddha. Because he's doing it the same way that the Buddha did. And even Krishnaji, I have been told by some senior people that he said, where is the Adi Shankaracharya of my teachings, of the teachings? So there is negation. So I was saying that this Chandrakirti thing, that emptiness that they have talked about, Nagarjuna Chandrakirti, Swankapa, it is nothing, which means it is not a thing, no thing. But Chandrakirti makes it very clear that in that state of nothingness, where there is absolutely no psychological movement, complete deconstruction of the self, which is a mental construct, complete dismantling, but that emptiness has compassion in it. It is not without compassion. Now, Krishnaji talks about it so frequently. He says, don't talk about love because you don't know what it means. I don't know. I should not take a lot of time, but if you allow me, am I allowed to take 3 more minutes?
Yeah, yes, you
It
can.
is just an anecdote, not very important, just throwing some more light on how he denied it. Like a lady used to go to Vasant Vihar every year and offer a bouquet to Krishnaji. She became almost 80 years of age, and she used to stay on the first floor, and the lady was not able to climb the stairs. She was waiting downstairs with a bouquet, and Krishna had some associate with her. He said, "Sir, the lady has come with the bouquet, but she's not able to come upstairs. So will you please go and receive it from her?" Krishnaji said, "Tell her to go away." Now, the friend associate was a bit shocked. He didn't like it, the way Krishnaji. He thought it was very rude of Krishnaji to say that. But in any case, he had to go and tell the lady to just leave because Krishnaji was not willing or not able to come downstairs and receive the bouquet. But then he went upstairs, went back and asked him, "So why did you say this?" Because she had been coming for so many years, and I think she was coming out of love. She said, no, stop saying all this. You don't know anything about love. So like complete denial, like Krishnaji tells people, now let's sit quietly for 5 minutes if you want to, after a public talk. And then when people sit quietly, he says, no, no, don't meditate, just sit quietly. So there is at every step a negation, a complete attack on whatever, constantly pulling the carpet from under your feet. That's what he did. And so Krishnaji is considered to be like a Zen guru by many of the Buddhists. Like the immediacy of understanding the insight, which happens almost immediately, independent of any logic, thinking, mm, conventional, uh, you know, tools that we have been using. So it's very interesting. It's not a comparison. Very interesting that many people have been very serious about these matters. They have gone very deeply into the way the consciousness functions and what are the basic, misalignments that have taken place, the dislocation that has happened in the human consciousness because of which all these conflicts and sufferings have come into being. So it's very interesting. Nagarjuna, Shankara, and they were amongst, I think, some of the greatest teachers. Yeah, thank you, Harshadji, for bringing this up and for giving your talk. That's all I want to say for now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Um,
Can I say?
Pradeep ji? Yeah, okay. Dinesh ji, okay?
Are you able to hear my voice, sir?
Yeah, yes.
First of all, Nagarjuna, when we say Nagarjuna and Krishnamurti, it's not a 1 or 1.5 hour job to discuss on them because Nagarjuna itself is a big subject. Or Nagarjuna's teachings are quite vast. Then, second point is there are two Nagarjunas in the history, and there is a lot of debate on them. One is Tantric, and another was not Tantric. The another which we are discussing, I hope so, that he has come after so many years of Buddha, and when there was a lot of confusion in Buddhist teachings, at that time Nagarjuna has thrown some light on the Buddhist Buddha's teachings, and he has given his own thinking and verdicts. So, first of all, let us see what Buddha's teachings were. I will just brief. Buddha's philosophy was there is a suffering, you can end the suffering, and there is a path to suffering, and there is a cause of suffering. So, then he has given his ideology also, how you can be free. For that, he has given right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, etc. That we already, most of the people are knowing that, and we have discussed in past. And this is known as middle way because Buddha has tell his disciples to avoid both the extremes, not to involve in too much in the sansar or this worldly affairs, and not to go for this stuff and all that, or for hard restrictions on the life, etc. So this was the Buddha. And then he has also said that there is a Shanik Vad, everything changes, and laws of cause and effect, and all that. He has also said all these things. Now, what Nagarjuna said, as earlier speaker said, that he has only given the Shunyatavad. But his Shunyatavad covers both. He said, Shunyata. This is in Mool Madhyama Karika, which he has given, the book, or we can say treatise or whatever you may call it. Nagarjuna employs the doctrine of the two truths. One is Paramartha Satya, which we have been talking. There is a Shunyata and there is nothingness and this thing. But actually, it is neither Shunyata nor nothingness, it is beyond that. Simply beyond that. Then he said Samvritti Satya, Samvrittik Satya, conventional truth, traditional, which he said it is a practical truth or superficial truth. According to Nagarjuna, these are not new concepts but explained by the Buddha said earlier. Explained of what Buddha said earlier. Why Nagarjuna has come forward with this explanation? This is because a great time passed between the Buddha and Nagarjuna that we have already discussed. People were confused and many misinterpretations were existing about Buddha philosophy. People were having tendencies to become monk and the normal persons were having no direction to go. So Nagarjuna come forward and gave his explanation. He said, everything that exists is ultimately empty of any intrinsic nature, which earlier speaker also said, but does exist conventionally. He said, but does exist conventionally. The conventional necessary means for understanding the ultimate, and it is the ultimate that makes the conventional possible. So source is one which is beyond everything, and from that everything springs out. So according to Nagarjuna, main basic element of existence is shunyata or emptiness. Now one thing is to be understood that this is not a negative word or literally meaning zero or nothing in the sense. To understand what is the meaning of, let us understand the second truth, Samritik Satya or conventional truth. This describes the nature of all worldly things. Since you experience them, hence they are true. But that perish, then become not available, so false. Since they are perishable, it cannot be said either it is truth. They exist somewhere and does not exist other places. So they are true and false both. At some places they neither exist nor do not exist. Means you do not know. You do not know about their existence itself, whether they exist or not. So basically they are beyond intellect and beyond words to explain. So they are varnanatik, means indescribable. Further, if you analyze them and do destruction, then you will find nothing. Also, they follow rule of cause and effect. So they do not have their own intrinsic nature, means Sabha, as Nagar Sahib said, means, but they do not have their, it means they do not have their own power or authority to exist, nor actual individuality. They seem to be individual, but they don't have the actual individuality because it is decided by something or it is come into existence because of something else. Because every thing is effect produced by cause and cause at its own cause. So all are dependent. So in a way they are empty, no actual self, and this emptiness is beyond description. Hence the actual cause is avidya, ignorance. So all world and its material is having samvrittik satya, means creation by the power or authority of avidya or ignorance. Now, what is Paramarthik Satya or ultimate truth? This is beyond intellect and its field. It is free of all worldly affairs and beyond imagination or concepts. This is also indescribable. This can be known only by the pragya or insight. This is known only by the pragya or insight in meditation and samadhi. This is also mentioned. This is ultimate truth, and if you get it, then you get nirvana, means freedom from all bondage. This truth says that everything is empty of essence. Basically, it is empty of essence, this includes emptiness itself, the emptiness of emptiness. This truth is beyond the polarities, and it is also empty of in existence. Means you cannot find the essence, but you can see its effects. Actual essence of everything you cannot find, but you can see its effects, as this truth makes the world possible. So, as Harshad sir said, you see everything. It is not. It is perishable, so it is not permanent. But it is there means something else is there behind it. It is a fact. Now, this also got people also got confused after some years. Then Shankaracharya said it is not they thought that it is shunya. So then Shankaracharya has to say no, it is one. Why one? Because it is alert, it is conscious, and it is doing all these. It is making all the worlds and galaxies and all this. So something is there which is not. You can't tell it as a shunya. So Shankaracharya came out with the other side of it, just to make the mind of the people clear. Thank you.
Pradeep ji, yeah. Am I audible, sir? Pradeep?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, and very good morning to all the friends. Another very interesting topic. When I read this topic, Krishnamurti and Nagarjuna, as words, my mind got charged, started probing for it. So, Harshad ji, when he started, he said, the source of suffering is thinking. And the thought, the chief thought, the main thought that definitely brings all the suffering is, I am different than anybody else. I am different than anything else. I am different. That is the first source of suffering. Then I started looking for this Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti, we know, he said the same thing. I will not share any biographical details, what Nagarjuna was doing, what he ate, and all those things, biographical details and the stories behind that. I will just say, Krishnamurti says, you are the world. Deepak Chopra further says, you are the universe. Observer is observed. You are not an individual. So the same thing he has expressed in simple words, not narrating any knowledge, not telling anything about their personal life, nothing, no miracles. Then he talked about emptiness, shunyat, that everybody, our earlier speakers have talked about. Of course, in between, not nihilistic. Or then Nagarji has talked about dependent origination. Then Dinesh talked about two truths. Nagarjuna talked about two truths. One is your everyday reality, thought-based everyday reality, which is definitely affected by the conditionings, and the ultimate truth. You see, this you can, the way you have gathered knowledge about quantum or this or Brahman or this and that. So that is the ultimate truth. Then what is the takeaway from this both Buddha and Nagarjuna? That when you are not independent, you are not different, you are not at all different, you are a part of the whole, then it gives you very easily, you are free, you are liberated. You are liberated with this very thought that you are not different, you are the whole. In various ways, you are that and that, and so many Mahavakyas are there saying differently. So interpretations have been different, but the main message is see yourself as such in your daily life or otherwise in your beliefs and philosophy. What am I? Everything becomes clear. The whole Nagarjuna, Buddha, all these, whosoever, even Shankaracharya, ultimately Anand, Satchit Anand, you see, ultimate that. So where is the problem? Where is the question? Why should we accumulate so much knowledge and stories to tell us these simple things? What am I? Mind, body, complex, everything. But somehow we are obsessed with knowledge. We are obsessed with words and languages. So the main thing is this: what am I in my daily life and otherwise, including my dreams? So this is what all I think is not much of a. We complicate it through knowledge and through words used by different people. So this is what I feel. Thank you very much, friends. This is all I have to say. It is pretty
Thank you.
simple, but you live
Thank
it,
you.
you know it.
I
Oh,
like to make a yeah,
go
short
ahead. Sorry.
comment. Short comment that I became curious about Nagarjuna because Osho Rajneesh, he said that Nagarjuna was one of the brightest stars in Indian spiritual sky. And when I became curious and when I wanted to understand Nagarjuna, I found it more complicated. But Krishnamurti, when I read the first book of Krishnamurti, it was very simple to me. So Nagarjuna was a philosopher, and he had a tremendous sense of logic, and he could defend Buddhism without defending it, but trying to show something wrong in the criticism of Buddhism. But Krishnamurti, I found that when Krishnamurti said that your problem is the problem of mankind. Your consciousness is the consciousness of mankind. You are not the only one, the whole humanity is suffering. Then it made me curious. Uh, and I said, because I felt that I am the one who is having problems, and I was comparing and felt that other people were without problem. But when Krishnamurti said that everybody is going through problems, I became very curious and started observing outside. And I found that Krishnamurti was true, that all human beings go through problems. Like Americans, they had many problems, loneliness in the family and all that. So I found Krishnamurti very simple, very quick, I could understand. But when I wanted to study Nagarjuna, then I found there's a lot of logic and lot of words. It's not very easy to understand. But Dalai Lama was very much impressed by Nagarjuna, and Dalai Lama said that Krishnamurti spoke like Nagarjuna. So Dalai Lama compared Nagarjuna with Krishnamurti, but Krishnamurti, I find it very challenging, very simple. It becomes simple, I think, only if people are ready to forget all the words, ideas, and begin to look inward clearly with curiosity, then Krishnamurti becomes very simple. Otherwise, many people, even recently I read a biography, autobiography of Dr. Parchure, who was with Krishnaji for many, many years, traveled with Krishnamurti, but he was also trying to understand Krishnamurti through thinking, through logic, and so he found it difficult. Only many years after Krishnamurti's death, Dr. Parchure realized that he was trying to understand Krishnamurti through thinking, through logic, and that's why Krishnamurti becomes very difficult. Otherwise, people who are very non-verbal, simple, inward looking, they will find Krishnamurti very simple and very quick. One can understand, and then one doesn't need even Krishnamurti because one can really see everything clearly, like the way Krishnamurti saw. So, okay, I think Adin wants to. Yes, Adin.
Yeah. So before I start, I would just like to say I have not gone through in detail what Nagarjuna has written. I am sure there are many people who have read much more about that. And my understanding is only limited to whatever discussions Krishnamurti had with Buddhist scholars, etc. I think there's also a book by Michael Menditsa and Samdong Rinpoche on Buddhism and Krishnamurti. So I think there are other scholarly works which can compare the two. So with my limited understanding, I will. There are some themes which I see are common, um, whether it's emptiness, whether it's impermanence, whether it's awareness, the non-existence of a self, uh, the inability to name something as is whatever universal consciousness or anything like. So there are certain commonalities, of course, I see, uh, and so I would just like to approach it through my own understanding and not by comparing. So there are certain central themes what Krishnamurti talks about, whether it's choiceless awareness, the thinker is the thought, and also space, emptiness, silence. So psychological time, in a sense, moment to moment, so impermanence, which are kind of common themes, I would say. And so for Krishnamurti, those words generally, they are not like he's not talking about different things, but pointing to the same things whenever I feel, whether he's talking about emptiness, whether he's talking about impermanence, whether he's talking about choicelessness, the absence of the self, awareness. I mean, they are not pointing to different things, they're pointing to the same state of mind or silence, also, I would say. And so, if we take, for example, the question of space, for example, or emptiness, those two words are like I can use interchangeably. And also, thinker is the thought. So, Krishnamurti, I might be wrong, but he had brought up this example of pot, and there is also space within the pot, and the pot is also existing. So, I may be wrong, but from what I remember, that there is a limited space of thought, of course, in which it can move, because thought is still conditioned. So, it has a limited space. It's not free in that sense. And And then there's a space which is beyond that, which does not contain the uh, any psychological element. Sometimes he would distinguish between awareness and attention. And in one of the discussions with the Buddhist scholars, he said that so one of the question was, in attention there is no psychological object as such. So there is a non-existence of anything, any thought in that. So there is one that is one state in which there is no existence of thought also, and there is just that pure emptiness, you can say, and there is no psychological object. So there is no psychological subject also in it. And then there is another state, I guess, in which the thinker is a thought. So in that still there is a psychological activity. Of course, there is no division in it, but there is a psychological activity. So if someone says something, my mind is conditioned, there will be a reaction in it. And that in the question is, I mean, I cannot deny that there is no reaction. So there is a reaction in the mind. The only question is, well, whether it leaves a mark in time or not. If someone I know dies, there will be suffering, definitely. All those feelings will come up. But whether it leaves a mark in time, that is the question. So that's where when the thinker is a thought, then it is moment to moment, choiceless awareness. There is psychological something happening in the mind, like some emotion comes up, but it doesn't leave a mark like in time. I don't carry that emotion and turn it into self pity or something in time, like it arises and it flowers. So, but there is some psychological activity still going in that, but it flowers and it is impermanent in that sense. It doesn't last. So it arises and ends at the same time and doesn't have an existence in time, although in that moment it does have existence. And basically, most of the things which we look around are like that only, like our bodies or everything. I mean, they don't exist completely. They are not everlasting. No one can say that. Nothing is everlasting. Everything seems to be impermanent. Although it has an existence, but it is not permanent forever, everlasting. Whatever, whichever, I don't know, you might hold on to some ideology, but who knows? Who will remember after 1000 years? How can you be sure that this ideology or this country, this flag, this will keep existing? No one knows that. But we feel that it will exist forever. Our religion will go on forever. Our family, will keep on existing for thousands of generations. Who knows? No one knows that. Uh, so yeah, so there is that state in which everything is impermanent, but there is a psychological object which is what the world seems to be like. And then there might be something beyond that which doesn't contain any, which is just pure silence in the mind where there is no reaction and there's like probably a lot of space, but I don't know anything about that. So yeah, so we have that, but I think somewhere where Krishnamurti differs. I don't know whether this is Nagarjuna, but maybe the Heart Sutra came from the same school. That they say that the emptiness and form is the same. The form is the emptiness, and emptiness is the form. I think that's where Krishnamurti differs, because I don't think so. He says thought and awareness is the same. At least that is my interpretation. Where people can uh, have a different, um, understanding of this, but. From my interpretation, thought and awareness is not the same. You might have seen, I was discussing this sometime yesterday. Uh, You might have seen the sunset yesterday and there was a seeing, but the entity which remembers the sunset now, that is not this, that is not awareness. So the thought about the sunset right now is not awareness. Although at that moment you might have seen the sun going down. So that is impermanent. So I don't think so thought and awareness is the same. So there is some that is different, I feel, from the Buddhist. And then from Shankaracharya and I don't know, Krishnamurti was very skeptical of logical, he was not interested in logic. He was a little bit like the Buddha. He was interested in this. He was more like, I would say, psychiatrist or psychologist, or I don't know. He was more interested in the daily things like fear, greed, anger, all those suffering. He was interested in that. He was not interested in making a cosmological, uh, rule of nature. Like he was not a physicist on trying to find logic on which the entire universe can be described. He was not interested in that. So he did not name anything. And that's where probably it differs from Nagarjuna. He was not interested in logically, convincing anyone. Even in the discussion with the Buddhists, I don't think so. He was trying to logically, but he was trying to, negate. I mean, at one point of time, I think when Professor Upadhyay discussion, uh, Krishnamurti said that if the Buddha came now and he said, "Listen, will you listen to him?" And I mean, that was like a funny thing because or will you hold on to, start arguing this and that, talking about Buddhist philosophy? This is how logic, that logic. You will not listen, no? Just listen to someone. So I think that was a good example that you cannot approach it with just logic. Like even if the Buddha was in front of you, instead of just listening to him, you will start arguing with him. That's what you generally do. So yeah, um, I feel
Okay,
that's
so
my take.
yeah,
Yes, yeah,
I think I
yeah.
am
Thank you.
unmuted. See, there are a few things here, which it will help to just understand. First of all, reality. Anything that exists is real. Okay, and Krishnamurti makes a very clear distinction between the real and truth. Okay, so he would say microphone is real. Okay, but is everything that is real is the truth in the sense that does it have an independent existence? If we can take a working definition of truth, so just as this computer cannot have an independent existence, it has to exist only for a certain amount of time and then go away, right? So are our thoughts real? I think that's the question that Krishnamurti was trying to ask. Because thoughts may appear to be real, okay, out of habit, out of fear, out of insecurity, out of nobody cares, as Harshad sir said, anybody interested in this, maybe 10 of us, 15, 20, who knows? Anyway, the point is, if if I am not, if this, the whole facade that I have created is not the truth, then what is it? Okay? What is it cannot be answered. Okay? The difference between Buddha and Adi Shankar, in my opinion, is that even when you take away everything, awareness remains. You cannot take away things ad infinitum. That's the trap of nihilism. Okay? So explicitly or implicitly, awareness becomes the Brahma or becomes the truth or whatever. And it cannot be talked about as Chaitanya rightly said, And that is what Syakwad also says, maybe it is, maybe it is not. Maybe it is and it is not. Maybe it is not. it is not, and indescribable. So that's the last thing, indescribable. Doesn't mean non-describable, that it cannot be discussed, but it cannot be described. That's okay, that's what we are doing. Anybody here disagrees? So these are all
Sir,
ob
I would just
observable
like,
truths.
Somendra Sahab,
Yes, sir.
I am just like to
I,
point out.
I just wanted to respond briefly to what Adeen
ha,
said. If
Chaitanya,
yeah,
Chaitanya ji,
just
go ahead.
Adeen said something very
Harshad sir,
interesting about.
Harshad sir,
Yeah,
time is
Dinesh ji,
already 12:30.
Dinesh ji, can you
yeah,
make it very brief?
I think time is coming to an end. Yeah.
लोग
First of all,
So
summarize करके खत्म कर दो.
तो
we
ये
talk
जो
consciousness. Sir, I will just take a 1 minute. We just talk of consciousness, but we have to understand very clearly that we are Jew basically. We are having a limited consciousness. The Vedantic Vedant is very clear on this. Vedant says ultimate is static also and dynamic also. And static portion they said Brahma, and dynamic portion they said this energy which is also Ishwar and which is also Shakti, right? So and they said that your consciousness is basically the sunlight which is coming through a cloud. The cloud is nothing but your limitations and all this. So you are having limitations. So your consciousness is not pure consciousness. Similarly, the Prakriti means the whatever Prakriti is there, that is having power, but that is not having consciousness. Whereas Ishwar is having
please allow Gautama to
everything.
speak. He has raised his hand. Please
Chaitanya sir,
let him make a remark.
already time has
Time
crossed
But
has
at
come. Yeah.
12:32.
he has raised his hand. Let him make a brief
He has
remark.
raised his hand, but he is not unmuting himself. I
Oh,
would like to unmute himself for
Gautama, please
10
unmute
minutes.
yourself.
Gautam ji,
Unmute
please
करिए भैया.
unmute yourself. Yeah.
He has unmuted.
Gautam sir, please be brief.
Yeah. Sir, it was a wonderful dialogue. Yes, when I was go through all this one, I got like a glimpse of two important books, Always Awakening by Kanchan Gogate, and one more book is The Transformative Philosophical Dialogue, which are all the discussions with regards to Krishnamurti's teachings by Shahi. Two people, wonderful people have written these books. And apart from that, you have now Rinpoche and all that, Mendes, all whatever that Adeen spoke. So this wonderful topic of Nagarjuna and Krishnamurti, I think the main context which they all both spoke, like already Sir discussed, Chaitanya Nagar Sir discussed so wonderfully about that. This Nagarjuna, who was that he created something called Madhyamika, the Mahayana Buddhism, a sect of that. And he has written that Mula, the book entire, whatever he has written, Mula Madhyama Karik and all that. So in that, the main parallel teachings, what we can see is the negation is one thing. Even K also negated about this topic about this one, what is it, thought and the negation of it. And he also has spoken both about, like both of them spoke about the same thing. And he mainly mentioned that the Shunyatavada, that's what our already your speakers have wonderfully spoke about it. That is Shunyata, that nothingness and reaching the truth. Thought, whatever the truth is actually the pathless land. That was one thing, and based on the assumptions when we come across this person, this Nagarjuna, or this Zen or Shankara, whoever it may be, they spoke in terms of epistemological and philosophical framework and how to, there is no method or no void to reach that, and in that regards they spoke. But this person K has spoke about psychological aspect of it, and he has told that very clearly. That's what again, there is no method or pattern to reach it. And Krishnamurti, when you see, he spoke clearly about emptying the mind. So emptiness is the one pain thing. So how you are going to make yourself free from this clutter, whatever the clutter of this conditioning or the memory or the me of ours, all such thing. So Nagarjuna also told with regards to Shunyatavada, as already you spoke, all the things, whatever are there, they are empty. That is called Swabhava, or the independent existence. They arise only through the interdependence. That's what he also spoke in that context. And with the term of self, that ego or I, or the psychological construct which we have made, that dialectical perception, which he totally is against Krishnamurti, he also demonstrated, Nagarjuna demonstrated that self, it has no nature, in like inherent nature. It's just collection, okay, na? Whatever the relations which is happening, just a collections of it. But Krishnamurti, he claimed the thinker is actually not separate from the thought. So he thought that self is nothing but the it's just a fabrication, that all the thoughts, and all the time together they create a false division between this observer and the observed. The rejection thing was what I told you. They both emphasize this direct perception, like seeing the thing direct, not the second hand knowledge. There were so many times K has told second hand knowledge. We are all second hand people like that. So that was the one main thing. But that's what, sir. Transcended wisdom also, pragna. Nagarjuna focused mainly on pragna. Thought is nothing but the it's something called as interpretative. It's a kind of a web. But Krishnamurti, in rather, he spoke about something called radical revolution. He told, be in the present, have this choiceless awareness. In compared to that, then this Chatushkoti,
Sir,
what is a
sir,
method by
please be brief.
Nagarjuna, the Madhyamika,
Please
and
be
the
brief.
K of the self-inquiry. That's the main thing, sir. Thank you, sir. With this, thank you.
Yeah, we
Chaitanya
can
sir,
stop here. Yeah.
Chaitanya sir was wanting to say something. Let him
No, no,
say
no, no,
for
no,
1 minute.
no. I just wanted to respond to what Adeen was saying. Somebody was present at that time when this talk between Jagannath Upadhyaya and Krishnamurti was happening. When Krishnamurti said, "Would you listen to the same thing if the Buddha said this?" And the fellow said, "Yes, we would." Then he said, K said, "The Buddha is here." Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Right.
say.
I would also like to just say one line. Why do we study old literature and all that and these philosophies? What is the outcome of it? We should also think of that. What is the outcome of it? What is the essence of it? And then what is the relevance in today's time? We just discuss about the history and we just discuss about the philosophy and all that. But what we have learned from it and what is its relevance in today's time? That also has to be seen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks all.
I think it's time.